choose, nothing remains quite the same. With all of our running and all of our gunning, if we could laugh, we would all go insane. If we weren't all crazy, we would go insane.
It should happen to you. It could be an illness, a death in the family, whatever it is. And I think that's one danger you always have there, trying to do too many things and play football. But I think Joe handles it well.
I think really there's been one terrible misrepresentation of Theismann since he stopped talking to the press. And that's been that he's become some unhappy, sullen person outwardly, and that just isn't so.
Last week, Theismann played like the same old Joe as Washington won its 4th straight, and afterwards he finally offered his first personal comments of the season.
In the Super Bowl, I probably spent more time concerning myself with my media obligations than I did with football. My priorities are now a beautiful woman by the name of Kathy Lee Crosby, my children, and my football.
Even though Joe Brent would not appear with us on camera, we did talk to him, and he told me that cutting down his interviews and other outside activities not only gave him more time to concentrate on football, but of course more time to deal with his new personal life and his children.
Have you been invited to the wedding?
What wedding would that be, Brent?
I'm
He's
sure.
not divorced yet. We got to get him divorced before we can set him.
Last week's Cincinnati-Houston game may appear the ultimate in boring, meaningless football. But let's look deeper. This was a clash dedicated to every jaded viewer who ever complained that today's athletes do too little and earn too much. Sure, Warren Moon is the obvious target, making his millions while missing his receivers as if they were still running fly patterns across Manitoba. But what about those Bengals, the high draft choices who would rather run out of bounds or to the bank than, God forbid, break a wedge on special teams? This was state-of-the-art ineptitude, a festival of turnovers and turnoffs that earned a place in losers' history. And that history is not meager. What connoisseur of chaos can forget Super Bowl V, a game that should have been stripped of its Roman numerals? Green Bay and Tampa Bay were once so equally bad that their games were called the Bay of Pigs. The poor soul who could sit through those invasions of his living room would watch a late-season hockey game between the only 2 teams that don't make the playoffs. I think there are still 2 teams that don't make the playoffs. The same soul relished baseball's solution to its strike season when mediocrity found new meaning in mini-playoffs between split-season winners. And he probably watched every round of Muhammad Ali's match against a Japanese wrestler who is best recalled as a legend in his own time zone. Shakespeare wrote in King Lear, "How fearful and dizzy 'tis to cast one's eyes so low." He was describing the view from the cliffs of Dover. Then again, King Lear never saw Houston play Cincinnati.